Alright, how's it going? My name is Josh, aka Flux Pavilion. Welcome to my studio in Tottenham in London, and I'm going to be showing you through my track called Twitterbird, and we'll be looking at the synth patch that I made on Contact and some of my drum processing, and I'll show you a little bit of my guitar pedals as well. So yeah, I'm here with my song called Twitterbird, which I've written for my new album .wav, which is coming out on the 21st of January. If you have a spare finger to click on Spotify to stream it and get me 0.005 pence, I would greatly appreciate that. The idea for this song actually came from this part here. So I had an idea about resampling where I record loads of different notes of my own voice and then pitch them all to the same note, so that some of them are pitched 2 semitones, some of them are pitched 4 semitones, so you get a keyboard that has loads of different tonal change as it goes but kind of remains in tune. And I did it and it sounded cool, but it was just my voice. So what I did is I put a tweet out onto Twitter and asked all of my fans to record themselves making a noise, basically. And I got hundreds back and had to go through them all, and I picked the nicest ones and made a keyboard out of them, which is this. So what I've done is I've made it so each time I press a key, it randomly cycles through them, so you get a different one each time. It's got quite a lot of reverb on. Which is quite nice. And I basically started this song messing about with that, so that's what this part is here. So yeah, there's how many did I do? There's 21 different samples, so there's 21 of you, if you took part in it, that are in this song. And so this patch is called Twitterbird, so that's why the song is called Twitterbird. And I'm going to use it more, and I'm going to use it in my live show. What's most interesting about it is it's random each time I play a note. So this song is never the same twice. So the bounce that you'll hear on the album is just pure chance that it landed like that. I had no choice over what sample goes where, it just kind of happens. So in my live show, I'm going to take this and play it live each time, so that it's basically random and different every time. I really like the idea of that, and that's kind of the core of what this song was all about. So yeah, you just get little happy accidents basically each time it plays through. Throughout the track on the Twitterbird, the only real processing that I do is I've put it through a CLA vocal to get widening. I actually have a Dimension D, which is here out of shot, you can't see. I've kind of remade a version of the CLA plugin where I've got a SSL comp, a Dimension D, and a stereo Moog analog delay, because I just use this on absolutely anything. It's meant to be for vocals, but I use it on as much stuff as I can squeeze it on. So I've made myself like a physical version of it, which I didn't use in this song, but that's probably what I would have done if I'd have owned a Dimension D when I did it. Yeah, bit of widening, bit of delay, and then FabFilter R, which is, in my current opinion, the best soft reverb for just how capable it is. And I use it all the time, mostly for 100% mix, big space. And then slowly automating and dialing back the mix. So that's pretty much all the processing that I've done. It's also got a bit of Bricasti, which is another thing that you can't see, but it's a physical convolution reverb. Physical, I mean hardware convolution reverb, which when I did some research, I was thinking about buying a Lexicon, but from all of the reviews I saw, the software version apparently is really good, and everyone was like, if you're going to buy a reverb, obviously get the Bricasti, but if you don't get the Bricasti, get this next post. Well, if you don't have a Bricasti, then this is what you should get. So I bit the bullet and just got one, and it's absolutely amazing. And my whole album and every song that I've written since I got it pretty much has that as my only send on any track, is I use the Bricasti. And it will be, yeah, North Church is the saying. If you come across one and you want the exact Flux Pavilion setting, then North Church on a Bricasti on your send is what you need. I actually wrote this on stream. So I had built the Twitterbird patch and then filmed myself coming up with the idea. So yeah, that's kind of, I've been doing a Twitch stream to basically try and capture the moments that songs come into existence. I find as an artist you get to show off your finished song and sometimes work in progresses and stuff, but my favourite part of writing music is the bit where everything lights up in your brain and you're just playing something and then all of a sudden you're like, there it is, that's my song. And I captured that on stream, and that was playing this lead line here. That little bit, I remember just playing along, and then I can't remember how to actually play it, but playing that little run and was like, there it is, there's my song, nice to meet you. And yeah, so if you go on my YouTube, or there might be links below, I guess, you can find that if that interests you. So you'll see my project's coloured in, and that's purely for the process of this video. I am not this organised. I had to group everything and find all of my drums to put them together, because I work in a very visual way where I tend to just have everything as a big mess, and I hear something and I know what I'm looking for by sight rather than by organising. So if you write music and you have really chaotic projects, don't worry about it, because I've been doing it for 10 years and it's been worked out fine for me. So yeah, drums. Get the main loop here. So I had a look, and what I normally do is group all my drums together and put them through some light compression and effects, but I actually didn't do that with this, and I'm not sure if that was due to laziness or the fact that it just kind of sounds pretty good. I think what makes this work is drum sample selection, and it's this kick drum, which has that little bit of noise on it that's kind of like a open hi-hat, and I think that really gels the sound of the kit together. Because if you look at it, it's sending out, so it's got no processing and no EQ. That's a straight sample from, I believe it's from a Flume sample pack, oversampled, and it looks like I couldn't be bothered to open another folder for this song, so all of the samples are from that one folder. I generally I'm not too precious about stuff in general. I like to kind of work quickly. I mean, once I'd come up with this idea, I was like, I want to do a plodding kind of, I remember my original idea would be a 4 to the floor type thing like this. Maybe without the snares. So it's like which sounded cool, but obviously added a snare in because I quite like the sort of hip hop aesthetic of the whole thing. And yeah, so this is like a completely unprocessed kick sample. Let's have a look from the top. That is just a little loop, again, unprocessed. This snare, little bit of reverb from the send, again, straight sample. And same for these. So I'd say that that's quite rare that I'd get to a finished song and have just bare samples with no processing whatsoever. But I always found that if you lead with your brain when producing music, so like if you do things that you think you're meant to do or should expected to do, like, there's no reverb in this song, there should be, so I'll add some. You can really easily overcomplicate a tune and just have too much stuff going on. So I try to be led by my ears and just listen. And obviously I work on a song over long periods of time, like months. I've worked on this song like maybe 6 or 7 sessions. And at no point did I think, the drums don't sound right. So I just didn't check them. I didn't go in and go, what do I need to do? Because if they've sounded fine to me every single time, then maybe they don't need any processing. Maybe the original samples were banging. And yeah, I think that would be the case here. So there's actually not that much to report. I've got a hi-hat here. A little bit of ping pong. I think this one, what is this? This is probably the most interesting part. It's just like a perk loop that I've pitched up 14 semitones. So let me select the whole thing. So it should sound like that. Get a bit of shuffle in there. But the thing I love about Cubase, the thing that, like, there's so much that's great about it, but the thing that keeps me using it over any other DAW is this bar at the top, where you have the ability to just really quickly edit pieces of audio. So I can grab this. In fact, what I do with songs often is I'll be working on it and then I'll think, am I in the right key? So you can select the whole thing and then listen to it in different keys. And the ability to do that really quickly is how I do all of my repitching. I don't ever use Melodyne or like go into a sample and sort of restructure it destructively. I'll always just kind of chop stuff around using this top bar because it's just super quick, and you have a bunch of different algorithms to choose from as well, which can get you different artifacts, because it's not perfect, but sometimes the artifacts and the oddity of how the algorithm processes the audio can get some really interesting sounds, like this. Pitched up like that, it just has a certain quality that fits in quite nicely. They're all on audio tracks rather than using a sampler, purely because I learnt how to do it this way. My first ever tracks that I ever wrote were on Reason, and what I would do is I would make loops on Reason, export all the separate loops, and then put them into Cubase, and use Cubase as a sequencer, basically, because I just much preferred moving pieces of audio around, and so that I can see them. What I like about drums, so you can see here, this snare isn't on grid, and the rest, I've kind of wanted the song to feel, a lot of the looseness comes out of the bass in this song, so I wanted them to feel quite rigid, but often enough I turn the grid off when I'm doing my drum tracks. And I find if doing it in MIDI with a sampler, unless I'm using a sample pad or something like that to play it in real life, I find that you just can't see what's happening because they're just little red dots. Whereas with audio, you can see how the peaks and transients are interacting with each other, and it just seems like the best way to work for me. When I'm repitching a song, I would generally choose where the sub is best, which for dubstep it's a bit of a meme now, where everything's in F, and it really is. You can my set's completely different now. I play mostly my own stuff, but at the point where I was playing lots of really hard dubstep records, you wouldn't even really need to worry about them being in tune with each other because they're all in F. And it became so much of a thing that I stopped doing tracks in F for that reason, because I was just like, oh, I can't bear to do it. So I always try to mess around, but I don't really go. I used to go, F is the right one. That's what everyone does. Let's go with that. And again, that's working from your brain rather than working from your ears and like gut, basically. So now I'll just pitch around until it feels different. You'll notice something like as simple as a chord sequence. If I pitch it up, that has a quality like morning, like waking up. It's a nice morning and you're kind of on summer holidays, I guess. And then just back to where it was. There's some more melancholy in there. It doesn't have the same kind of like happy morning, oh, everything's nice nature. There's a tinge of some kind of melancholy like feeling of like, oh, something's up, something's a bit spicy. And it's the same chord sequence, but you can get completely different things by pitching them around. Just different. It's not, they don't really sound different, but they feel different. And I think that's a really important thing to be led by when you're working on music. So the ability to be able to just change stuff around and have a listen. So now that's sleepy to me. That sounds really sleepy, like relaxing space, floating through space, looking at Earth from the moon, something like that. And that's a 6 semitone range, and I feel like there's 3 different moods that you can get just from one chord sequence. So my next little coloured block, I believe, is guitar. So this guitar, it is relatively unprocessed, kind of a little bit of EQ there. My main trick is to play everything twice and have it hard panned, or like medium hard panned, so you get a nice wide sound, and by playing it twice you get the discrepancies in the different audio, which helps generate a wider signal. This is actually the last thing that I added to the song. In my live show, I now play keyboards and guitar and stuff over the tops of the tracks, and I didn't have anything to play in this one, so I played this guitar over the top, and it felt so cool that I added it into the actual track. And there's a benefit there to giving yourself time to finish songs. Sometimes a song can be basically finished, but I won't really get round to finishing it. Normally 2 or 3 months I give myself, but sometimes it can be years where I'll have an idea there, but I just really want to sit with it. and see what else can come up, because if you rush through a song and try and get it done, I feel like there's so much kind of focus on, I need to get this song done, but it's like, let it permeate, let it sit in your brain, put it to the side. I've got normally about 20-25 songs that I'm working on at a time, but I'm stressed out about none of them because I'll just listen to them often enough, and then sometimes I'll be sitting there in the bath thinking about it and be like, you know what if I play live bass on that, and then that'll give me the energy to go back into the studio. And I won't really work on a song unless I have an idea like that. So if you've got something, it doesn't feel quite done, you don't know what to do next, put it to the side and listen to it, and other stuff will come up. And that was kind of where basically all of this guitar came from. These bits, and then in the breakdown, we've got this. So again, that was another bit that I wrote to just have something to play for so long. For like versions 1 through 20 of this song, it just sounded like, but adding that just gives it an extra nice little bit of movement. Same as this, after the big heavy breakdown, we've got this section. And this bit I wrote specifically for my live set. I had the first drop going into a breakdown, then this quite loud bit. And then I needed a way to mix out of it. I wanted to test the song in my set, but the song wasn't finished, so I needed a way to mix out of it. So I just chucked some guitar on the end, basically. A nice guitar sequence, and I thought, well, if I've got something else in key with a vocal, then that'll give me the ability to mix out of this song, and then wrote this whole section because of that. So in my live set, there's another track on my album called I Believe, and if you play the vocal of I Believe over this guitar part, it works perfectly. And it works too perfectly because I wrote this for that song. And then when it came to finishing Twitterbird, I just had got so used to the melodic journey of this section that it just ended up going in. So yeah, the decisions about how the layout of this track sort of came together were based on live, trying to come up with something for live, rather than sitting here being like, right, what's next? Where does my song go? I just kind of let it felt like it created itself. I had a problem, I wanted to play it in my set, so I just kind of went with it. And that's generally how most of my layouts go, is yeah, the sort of structure of a song. I'll just kind of write it for no real reason whatsoever. Sometimes there'll be a massive breakdown because I was recording some keyboards there and it sounded quite cool, and I get used to it. Most people call that demo-itis, but I like to think of it like that was the moment that I met the song and I heard the song for the first time. Doing this, whatever kind of process, if it had a 2-minute outro and I was really enjoying writing that at the time, why would I go back 2 months later and edit it down to 30 seconds and take out loads of stuff that I actually really enjoyed writing? It's the moment that I write something, that's generally how I keep it. I don't bother editing stuff down after, because it feels like I'm editing away the soul of the song, rather than the whole process is discovering what the song should sound like in it. I think all that stuff kind of happens accidentally, and that was where all these guitar parts came from, basically. But yeah, to show you my guitar tone, I'm going to move over to my pedal board and we're going to have a look at my guitar. Alright, so this is my pedal board and my guitar, which I have a few, but this is probably my favourite one at the moment, which is one that I made by buying kind of a few, or bought all the separate bits and then put these like pearl things in and stained the neck with Golden Virginia tobacco, which is, if I could be sponsored by two things, it'd be Golden Virginia and Steinberg Cubase. Yeah, this is a pretty cool guitar. I quite like, I've got a mod in it which makes it a 7-way pickup, so you can have all 3 pickups on at the same time, which has a really, if I turn it off, here it's quite bright, but then yeah, the bridge pickup really kind of warms the whole thing up, which is a really nice thing. I didn't even know what I was doing when I made it. I just got my soldering iron out and messed around. But yeah, I really like the 7-way switch on the guitar. And yeah, these are all of my pedals. I'm just going to show you the 2 main sounds that I did on this song. This is probably a key component of my sound, and it's the first pedal that I've designed myself as well. It's called Diodesis, and it's basically a diode buffet selection box where you have certain pedals like, so the Klon Centaur is my favourite pedal of all time. I just absolutely love how it sounds. And the thing that makes it famous is for the diode. It has germanium diodes in it basically. And people always talk about, oh, are silicon diodes good? Are germanium diodes? You can get Schottky diodes. And I just started falling into this rabbit hole about diodes basically, and was like, well, what's my favourite one? So I bought 40 different diodes, some from like the 50s, some new, and I created a little circuit which is just plain clean guitar, just going through 2 diodes to make them clip, and then noted down all of my favourites. And then I've chosen my favourite 8 into a pedal, so that basically at the start of my chain I can just take my clean and then get a nice little bit of diode fuzz. I really like how diode distortions have a dynamic range to them. So you can play really soft, and it's lovely. And then you can pick out certain notes and get an extra bit of kind of like warm, fuzzy distortion on top. And that's why it's my favourite, just because that is my favourite kind of style of playing, picking out these extra little notes that get that extra little bit of distortion for a bit of dynamic. And pretty much into the Diodesis with a little bit of slapback delay is the main sound that I used for all the recordings. Change this out. I've done it different. Yeah, I'd say that's the guitar sound that I use the most when I have a song that I think needs guitar. I will go for this, a dynamic kind of diode distortion finger picking thing. And the only other thing I would add is potentially this, it's called Shallow Waters. And what it is, you'll notice that I like chaos. It's a chaotic modulator. So it basically, it will modulate the signal effectively at random, and kind of it's conceptually kind of like tape distortion effectively, like some modulation, but it kind of happens like an old VHS tape, and it's like slowly going out of normality into this weird warped space. You can dial it back a bit, and I really like that too. pretty cool. So yeah, that's one sound that I use quite a lot. And another one is using the POG, which is it's an octave generator. So it takes your dry signal like this, and then you can layer octaves on top, 2 above, 2 below, and get like a and that with some reverb and a bit of delay. Yeah, pretty nice. That's a sound that I use quite a lot, just for layers and stuff like that. And then if you put a little bit of diathesis on it too, get that extra kind of frazzle out of it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That is all we've got time for now, so please come back and join me in part 2 and I'll show you some more stuff.